Good morning, PT on Ice. It is Monday, another Monday, October 14th, and as you can see, I am in the mobile studio, which is actually apropos to this morning's episode because it's not my typical mobile studio, which I'll get into in a second. I'm going to take a sip of coffee here and then start the timer and we'll get rolling. So it is 8:30, a little over 8:30, Monday morning, the 14th here in New Jersey, and I am actually sitting in Basking Ridge, New Jersey. Not a place that I spend a ton of time at, but a place where I'm going to spend some time at this morning because this is sometimes how things roll. So let me start the clock and we'll get into it. So I think this topic is not what I had planned to talk about, but it just kind of sometimes happens. And I think it's a good topic to kind of dive into because I think for most of us who are, trying to continue to be in a space where we talk about change, where we help people with change, whether that be individuals, all the way up to organizations, institutions, populations, society. It's really about being agile, and I don't mean like the agility in the sense of PT talk agility. I mean, we often talk about that, or think about, like what does agility mean? It's, the ability to kind of like, speed, agility, quickness, that kind of thing. That's not what I'm talking about. What I'm really talking about is the ability to change quickly, the ability to deal with the shocks of life as they come in, the ripples, whatever you want to call that. So I'll start you with a little bit of a story. So this morning, I'm out the door early. I had a location I had to be at, bright and early. It wasn't real close nearby. And I'm driving along, and the first of many ripples kind of starts. I get to my, my merge where you kind of get off one highway and get onto the next so I can head north. And the exit ramp that they've been working on for a little while is now, I guess, officially closed. Of course, there was no notice of this. I can't remember any sign or anything, so I didn't really realize it. I just kind of kept going where I was going, and then before I know it, I'm sort of detouring, and that's going to probably add 10 to 15 minutes onto my trip, which is not good because, for the most part, I run as everyone knows, I run my life by a clock, and so, everything is kind of timed out just right, and I know when I need to be where I need to be. So a 10 or 15 minute ripple is not the end of the world. I build that in. It's a buffer, but it's certainly not ideal. So I'm looking at my gas gauge and I'm thinking, all right, I got to go, a little bit, I can go a little bit further, but that 10 or 15 minutes might throw me off a bit, because that probably would have been reserved to get some gas and all would have been on track. So I make my detour and I'm getting off the exit, to kind of like turn around and loop around and get back on the highway going the other way, as the detour is kind of built. And all of a sudden the panel in my car lights up, and it seems like the headlights turn off. And I go, oh crap, the car's still running, everything's kind of moving along, but definitely something with the electrical system is thrown off. Now I'm no mechanical genius, but I figured it must have been the alternator, because of course the alternator is what keeps the electrical system running, and so that was that. So I call my wife and I said, hey, listen, I know you're going to be not far behind me on this same highway. There's a detour, by the way, so maybe, take that first exit. I'll get my car to the local Starbucks, and then you can pick me up. And that's what we did. So the car is now sitting next to me, and I'm waiting to figure out how we're going to tow it and how things are going to move forward. Bottom line is that it was okay. We were able to roll with it. I got on the phone with Nick and I said, hey, listen, we got to talk to those folks up north and going to have to reschedule this morning because there's no way I'm going to get there on time. And he was like, yep, here's the contact information. I called him, or I actually emailed her. She got back to me right away. Yeah, no problem. We can take care of that. Everything was fine. But that was definitely a curveball. And in many ways, that's business agility. Got back on the phone, texted somebody, said, hey, somebody find out, my towing coverage for the car. How are we going to handle that? Got to get it where it needs to go so we can get whatever is needed done. So the reason why I bring this up is because this day is, it's going to be a low value day. It's not going to go great. It's going to be a cost. Our business is going to lose out on whatever the cost is for me not being able to work this morning. But it's not the end of the world, and it's not the end of the world because we had sort of the ability to roll with things. And I think the key thing is that could have turned into a total crap show for me. Like that could have caused a meltdown, but it didn't because we've kind of had some systems in place and we were able to roll. Now it's not perfect. It's not like, I've been sitting here for an hour. We don't have everything like perfectly dealt with, But that agility, that ability to just kind of turn on a dime and move where it needs to go and change, I think in many ways that's at the root of what we're asking people to do. So in life today, life is happening so quickly, and people are kind of on the fringe of their abilities. They're on the fringe of their health. They don't have a lot of assets in the bank in that regard. They don't have a lot of margin. And when you get into the margins of life, that's where stress starts to happen. And I think that's where people go from that stress of kind of like, hey, it's a good challenge stress, to distress. I can't handle it, and I start to wear, I start to break down and feel sort of the breakdown of life. And in many ways, I think that's what we're going in and helping people with when we get into the population health space. It's looking at the whole and understanding that change is going to happen, whether we like it or not, and being able to deal with it effectively and just kind of roll with it and be able to be okay. Now that's not an easy thing, and I know when we were out at Rising Tide, I kind of kicked off the day that way, telling people like, hey, listen, like, I know I haven't given you every detail. You're just going to have to roll with it. And in many ways, today is going to be one of those days where I'm now going to kind of test my own skills in that regard. But I think it's important, and I think it's one of those things where we have to all understand that that's what the communities really want. I heard this when I was at National Business Group on Health. I was ducked into a little talk, and they were really talking about business agility. It was actually a talk being done by I think the Pepsi Corporation. I can't remember who, but they were really talking about mental health and well-being. And it was sort of an idea of how do we manage or help people manage their mental health and their well-being. And a big part of it was understanding and getting the skills of agility. Now that's the term they use, that idea of agility, sort of mental agility, life agility, not necessarily physical agility, but it's all the same basic stuff. The ability to react effectively faster. And I feel like as providers, if we can nail that down, if we can kind of get that and understand it, and really understand that is in many ways the line between stress and distress, then we can help people stay on the right side of that curve. And we can devise systems to do so, and we can devise strategies to do so. And in many ways, that is, how we're going to move the needle for a lot of people. Many people want to do the things that we talk about, right? They know they need to. Sorry, got a phone call there. It might have been the tow truck. We'll find out in a few minutes. But what I was saying is that many people know they need to do the things that we're sort of pushing, and the things that we want to do. And the things that we want them to do. They want to do that stuff. They want to be able to get healthy. They want to eat better. They want to exercise. But it's figuring out how to pull it off within the parameters of their life that gets really hard. And I think that's the kind of thing that we can help with if we get good at it. If we can think about, like, okay, preparedness, like what needs to happen in this situation? What could go wrong today? And will I be able to roll with it? Will I have enough buffer in my life to roll with it? Now, that could be physical buffer, no doubt. I mean, like, if we have extra capacity physically, then you can throw some physical challenge at us and the body is going to be okay. We're going to bounce back. But it also can be that resilience idea, that sort of mental agility, right? Like if something goes wrong today, is it going to ruin my day completely, or am I going to be able to roll with it? Do I have some buffer? It definitely could be financial agility. It's probably the one that affects most people. You've heard on this podcast before, and certainly anybody who's taken the course knows. I talk about the fact that health bankrupts people a lot. You want to not get bankrupt in America, don't get sick. And that sounds facetious, but I mean, it's true. If you get ill, if you have some kind of illness or disease, you're going to lose money faster than you can make money. And that's not a good proposition if you don't have a lot in the bank. So bottom line is that agility is a bigger factor than maybe we give it credit for and maybe we train for. And so in many ways, I hear, our colleagues talk about physical variability in training. I wonder sometimes if we have, kind of mental, variability in training. Like, do we push ourselves into that space where, hey man, if today goes really wrong, will I be able to come out the other side, or will the day just be ruined? Will the day unfortunately just be kind of like broken apart? And so I guess that's really where I wanted to go. I guess it's more of a question than a statement. I don't necessarily have anything where I would say, like, yeah, here's the one thing you need to do. I mean, it's not that easy. In fact, there's a lot of little things you need to do. I was talking over the weekend, I think I'm going to test this theory. I don't know. I'm going to blog about it a little bit, but I want to see. Everyone who knows me knows I like to run experiments a lot, and the experiments that I like to run are either on myself, try a bunch of stuff and figure it out and see how it goes, kind of that which doesn't kill you makes you stronger mentality, or try and experiment with different systems. So the system I think I'm going to go with, and I would love people's thoughts and feedback. Happy to crowdsource it. It's not there yet. I'll blog about it soon when I kind of have it worked out. But I want to deliver a model of care that is pay what you can afford. And I'm going to do it in our West facility. We opened up a little satellite facility. It's essentially a training room. There's not much there to it. But I'm gonna literally go to the town locally and just get the word out. Maybe through Facebook, maybe through a video or a blog, and just basically tell people, like, listen, I'm at a point in my career that I can put a few hours a day into just kind of being available, being an expert, like pro bono. Like there's no fee for this. Now it's not free, don't get me wrong. There's no fee for it, meaning that you pay what you can pay. You want to, pay some cash, pay some cash. You want to, give me some skill that you have, great. You want to barter with something? Maybe we'll trade in, cookies or chickens or like whatever else you can deal with. But like bottom line is, if we can kind of build that, because I think that if we can take the barriers and the excuses down for people, then they can start to explore that agility a little bit, and so that's kind of where my brain is going. My brain is going saying, yeah, like let's throw it out there, let's test it. And maybe it'll be an hour a week or 2 hours a week or whenever I'm going to be in there just working out for myself. I have no idea. But the bottom line is I feel like if we give people some buffer, if we can allow people to have a little bit of buffer and not run their lives like right on the thin edge, on the razor thin edge margin, if we can somehow build a little bit for them or help them build a little bit, then they can begin to explore that agility. It's very, very uncommon for me to meet somebody who doesn't know they should exercise, eat better, be less stressed out, get more sleep at night. Like it's really rare. It happens, but it's really rare. Most people don't know the connection of those things and how they kind of interplay with each other. Okay, that's the complexity of it. But almost everyone even understands that. It's more just, look, I don't know how to fit it in my life. I don't know how to work it into my life because I don't have extra time, because I need more money, and so I can't afford these things. And then it just becomes a downward spiral. They don't have the ability to withstand shocks. They don't have the ability to be agile because the buffer is so thin. And I think we can all look within, right? We're all feeling like that, right? I mean, how many days could you go without working and still be okay financially? How many appointments could you cancel today without your company, client, friend, colleague firing you? Not that many. I mean, we run a thin margin as professionals. We run a thin margin as people. That was phone call number 2. The ability to be agile is critical to deal with that. So I'm going to leave it there. Apparently, people are trying to get a hold of me, probably trying to help me get a tow truck. But the bottom line is still the bottom line for today. Agility is one of the key factors if we are going to stay on the good side of the stress to stress curve. If we're going to truly perform at our best, both personally, professionally, and also in the communities we serve. And the only way to really do that is to build that skill and the systems that support it. And I believe that is a critical aspect of this kind of move the needle on health, move the population. Because if people aren't freaking out all the time, if they're not distressed all the time, if they've got some margin, then I think they can roll a little bit. And when they can roll a little bit, the stress level comes down to manageable. And when the stress level comes down to manageable, you can start to be organized and fit in those important things in your life. When you're distressed from the moment your eyes open to the moment they close every day, the last thing you're going to want to do is worry about vegetables or how am I going to exercise. And I think that's a lot of the states. I think that's a lot of the United States, a lot of the society, a lot of population. So we'll see how it goes. Yeah, I like that, Mark. Thin buffer syndrome. No doubt. I really do. I think it's life on a thin margin. All right, I'll leave it there. I had about a minute left. So just kind of a rambling today. Thanks for sitting through and listening. Hopefully you'll never have to see me in this particular mobile studio again because the other mobile studio is back online. And we'll figure it out from there. kudos to my wife. If she listens, I'm not sure she ever sees this, but when I told her, hey, I'm going to drop you off at work and you're probably going to have to take a lift to the kids' soccer game, and then I'll pick you up there later and we'll figure out what's going to go on with the car, she just rolled with it. She was like, yeah, whatever. And I know people who have met her probably know, like, man, she's been married to you for 17 years. She's probably just like numb to the whole thing. Bottom line is that if we can all just roll with it, it's a whole lot less stressful. And when it's a whole lot less stressful, we can live our best version of ourselves. Have a great day, everybody. It's only Monday. It's only Monday. Hopefully this is the peak of chaos, and then we get into a nice flat Monday from here. But either way, it's still only Monday. Make it count.